thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. Gonna jump right into it. I saw there was someone watched part of my commentary. It was more commentary than a review of the new Amazon Prime Video limited series, the Underground Railroad, created and directed by Barry Jenkins. Um, People dislike stuff and don't leave a comment. I don't know what somebody disliked. And it could have been either way. I made some statements about black people. I made some statements about white people. I asked some questions, and maybe some people are uncomfortable with those things. I try to keep it respectful and to speak from what I observe and what I experience. I can't help it. Uh, but these so what I wanted to come back and get to, I didn't want to look at I didn't want to look at the Underground Railroad, honestly. And through the first episode or two, maybe even three, I just had it on the TV because we've seen so much of this before. By like I said, Nate Parker's The Birth of a Nation, 12 Years a Slave from Steve McQueen. Um, it's tons of these movies. Um, but the one that I forgot to mention on the video was I just watched them on Amazon Prime Video, and that was created by a guy named Little Marvin, and then it was produced or whatever by Lena Waithe, who does The Shy. And I struggled to watch and finish them, and I kind of didn't understand the purpose of it. Um, and some of my reactions to what I saw in them leaks over to watching a show like the Underground Railroad, and in them, you know, how how white Americans were portrayed in them, and now we're mixing horror and racism and or white supremacy, and it might just be too much. Um, you know, and I saw where they tried to go back and throw in, so the neighborhood was racist and aggressive. At the workplace where the husband went to work, I think his name was Henry. He was experiencing shit there. In the school system, Ruby, I believe, was the oldest. She was experiencing shit. Um, then we get to the bank. The bank is running this scam. That was kind of the most realistic thing that I thought they tried to do. Uh, and I think it's some truth in that. Then they also got into the Bible being used to justify white supremacy and violence and whatnot towards black people. Um, it's a lot. It was a lot to unpack, and it's like, how many times do we watch these stories? What's the takeaways from these stories? I watched the show, and I really don't know. That's not the kind. I don't need to be scared in that manner. You don't need to use those types of themes and elements or whatever to scare me. And like I said, it was very weird to me. I would be interested in talking, and I saw some different articles out there about the violence, the racist violence or whatever of what it horror racist, whatever the genre, whatever this new subgenre is called. Uh, the cat in the bag situation in like episode 5 of them. What do we do with that? So then, like I said, we get to this the Underground Railroad show. It's like they're tripling down on this stuff, on dealing with racism. And and again, we have some horrible portrayals of and it's very similar to 12 Years a Slave. The slaves start out with this owner, this plantation owner, this master that's somewhat lax and doesn't rule his plantation with the iron hand. Of course, his plantation is underperforming or whatever. He passes away, and then the property, the slaves, transfer over to this brother who comes in wanting to whip this place into shape. His brother, I think, owed him some money or something, and it's like these people got to get me my money, and like he said, things are too lax here. You got to put more fear into them. You got to beat them. You got to punish them, and you have to use the punishment to get the others in line. It's raping. The one woman has the stillborn child, but because she was ready to nurse babies from going through the pregnancy, they bring over some twins from another slave who couldn't nurse the kids. It's some strong stuff to deal with. I thought that one of the positive takeaways from Barry Jenkins's show was that they didn't spend a whole lot of time showing us what we've already seen about the being whipped. But what they showed us, the brother, the runaway slave, I think his name was Big Anthony or Fat Anthony or something. That was almost enough, and that was in episode 1, I believe. That was almost enough to stop watching the show. Like, man, I don't need this. So I thought they did a decent job of not spending too much time on these things that we saw in Roots, we saw in 12 Years a Slave. I'm forgetting some other shows and movies that are out there. And then they went in, but then we get to the first city that they were in. I think it was in Carolina, one of the Carolinas, South Carolina or something. And it's this town where like blacks aren't really slaves, but the white town folk are doing some stuff to eliminate them, and so that they can't reproduce. So then it's back kind of in this racist horror type thing from them. So a lot of this stuff is just difficult, man. I don't know where people are with it. I tried to talk through it because it's out there. Like I said, I really couldn't do a whole lot with them as a show. I really didn't see any payoff for watching it. I'm amazed at some of the actors that take these gigs, to be honest with you. And I'll close this with, again, I would suggest check out the Barry Jenkins interview to talk through his show, Black on Air with Larry Wilmore, his podcast on the Ringer Network. He's a well-spoken guy. Listening to that, I understand what the vision was here. Again, I'm going to try to check out this book at some point in time by Colson Whitehead. I don't think the Underground Railroad was a total wash in terms of taking the time to watch it. I really don't. But it was weird to have like this kind of fantasy element of it with the Underground Railroad itself and the stations, and even a character like Caesar was a little over the top, with him kind of being guided by I think he was reading Gulliver's Travels or Oliver Twist, one of those. I don't know. Maybe that's the same thing. But I don't know. Like I said, man, I don't know. We do it with all of these types of shows and movies, and I've talked with some buddies who think that these projects get green lighted to beat black people down and to serve as like a negative reminder. That's not what Barry Jenkins said in his in the interview with Larry Wilmore. But I would suggest check that out. Like I said, I just watched the US versus Billie Holiday, tough watch. Judas and the Black Messiah, tough, extremely tough watch. And what happens with putting all this stuff? I've seen a couple of different shows handle what's going on this weekend with the 100-year anniversary of the Tulsa race riot. The show, the 14th, I think it was, by Will Smith and Larry Wilmore. Or was it Amend? Maybe it was called Amend, but it was about the 14th Amendment. Like, a lot of this stuff is real heavy. And I just wonder what people are doing with it. Anybody growing from it? Changing anybody's mind? Getting a better understanding? So that's kind of why I talked about the show, the Underground Railroad. You know, if you can stomach it, I would suggest checking it out. If you've had enough of it, I completely understand. So anyway, I had to circle back and kind of talk about, compare and contrast them versus the Underground Railroad, and when we can get to some other stories, or whether more time needs to be spent here with this stuff. And then to what extent do you go with kind of handling the telling of these stories? And it's heavy. That's all I can say. Hey, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. I'm out. Peace.